Welcome to this episode of The Cycle. I'm Brandon Bordeau, joined by Greg Horn, and we have a special guest in studio today, head coach of the U-18 Warhawks, Jesse Lahache. Jesse, welcome aboard.
Yep.
Welcome to hell.
You need to be more articulate than, yep.
It's okay, you can show some emotion. We've seen you show some emotion. Like this past Saturday.
Very recently.
Very recently.
Yeah.
We'll get into what was quite an emotion-filled weekend of baseball. U13s, U15s, U18 Warhawks, all in action. Plus, U9 girls playoffs, regional starting tonight. The girls are in action. And the U9 championship game, which is taking place this evening as well. It'll be a 5:30 start time. Red against blue for the championship. We do believe it is taking place at Maddie's Park. There was a scheduling conflict, but it looks like as of right now, it's going to be happening over at Maddie's. And then that the U9 girls game, which was scheduled for Maddie's, has been moved to the hospital ball field. Playoffs, they got to take place on the bigger stage.
Oh, yeah, and anything can happen during the playoffs.
Yes, definitely. Like 3 Kahnawake teams winning the Lac St. Louis regionals, which happened. U13s, coached by Ronnie Stacy, winning the regionals. U15s, coached by John Mayo. U18s, coached by Jesse Lahache. Now, Jesse, we could talk a little bit about this past weekend, but let's just go back a little bit to what happened in the regionals, because the regionals was a little bit interesting as well for you guys. So your first game, it's against Sioux Lounge. It's a 7-6. It's a 1-run game. And then what you're not preparing for happens. The game gets basically disqualified. You basically end up with a default, quote-unquote, 7-0 loss, even though you're winning 7-6.
Yeah.
And you remember what happened, like what specifically led to that, and why was your player ejected?
Oh, we only went up with 9 players, and by the rules, you have to have 9. If one player gets hurt, one player gets thrown out of the game, well, then you got to forfeit the game for not enough players. So I understand where this player is coming from that got thrown out, because he threw his bat after we got a warning, and he just lost his emotion and threw him out. And then the other coach called the rule, and then game was over. We lost, even though we were winning.
Yeah, that's it. 7-6, just like the first time you guys played against Sioux Lounge when that game ended a little prematurely.
Yeah.
So then you go into the quarterfinals against the team which finished first in the league during the regular season when you guys weren't there, Lachine A's. Down 5-0 after 1 inning in that game. What do you remember most about that comeback and how you guys went on a 9-1 run to end it?
Just keeping the boys positive, keeping their heads up, let them know they have a chance every time they're up at bat, and our pitching has to give our team a chance. Like, baseball's a game of pitching. If a pitcher goes out there, no damage done, well, it gives you a chance to get some runs and keep chipping away. So we're getting 1 run here, 2 runs there, kept chipping away, and eventually we came back and
defense really held the fort to that game.
Defense held the fort, and our bats started waking up when we needed them most.
That brings you guys into the semifinals. By the way, you had a playoff game right before that, the night before against St. Laurent. You guys won that one 13-1. Then the semifinal game, you guys just came out and looked dominant pretty much from the get-go of that one. I believe that was a 13-3 win, if I'm not mistaken, over DDO.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that brings you guys to the finals. So you guys get off to a good start, 3-0, and then the shot that we're waiting for happens. Bottom of the second, nobody up, 1 down. Lucas Daibo takes a shot to deep right center, and it clears the fence, hits the pole, the telephone pole in right field. Suddenly you guys are up 4-0. What can you say to describe that one, hitting a home run in the grand finale of the regionals?
That was great to see. A lot of kids were talking about it all season. Different parks, like, this one's hittable, this one's hittable. Nobody's come close, but Lucas, he ended up pulling it off. We call him on the bench there is Lucky Lucas. He always finds a way. He's always like a clutch hitter, a clutch player. At a certain time we need it, he somehow pulls it off.
And that really set the tone for you guys. The Sioux Lounge kind of made a rally in that game. I know you were up, 6-1, I think. They made it a little more interesting. It was 6-3 at one point in the top of the 6th. Your bats had gone quiet for a little bit. And then the pitching staff, what can you say about the pitchers and the way they just held the fort for you guys?
For that part, it was great. I had all my kids there. The pitching was all on. Everything worked out perfect. So, I mean, they end up winning, so you can't ask for anything better, right?
Well, no, that's it. And right before that, earlier that evening, the U15s had won. It was funny. We've seen Terry Stacey come up from where the championship game was in Parc Bedard. No, that Parc Bedard was where our final game was. Yeah. But the U15s were in Coteau-du-Lac, which is like about a 15-minute drive from where we were. So seeing them come up and then having both teams with banners and then having like assistant coach Lee Snow pose with his two sons who were on the two teams that won, that was really like the icing on the cake of what was already like a great playoff up to that point.
Yeah.
And we remember the U13s had won there the day before. What was it like having to wait like those 24 hours in between that game? Because you were supposed to play on the Sunday night, but there's a rain delay, and then you're getting your guys ready, all charged up, and then it's like, oh crap, we can't do it. We have to stay behind.
For me, it made me second guess a lot of things. I wrote that lineup about 8 different times, about 8 different scenarios, and then where to position kids in the field, and I just wanted it to go the way it went. So, I mean, you can't really prepare yourself for that, but it's when you get a rain delay or a day off, it kind of sucks because you could lose momentum.
Yeah.
That Sunday I had all my kids there. That Monday I had to get call up.
Yeah, that's right.
Because a lot of kids work or go to school. So it was a little bit more of a challenge, but they ended up pulling it off. So
shout out, by the way, to Olivia Rice. She got hit by a pitch in that game and came back and scored a run. She scored a run in that game.
She didn't even flinch. She just ran right to the bench. Right to the bag and took it like a champ.
Yeah, and she ended up leaving the day as a champion, right? Because she ended up winning that game. So that brings you into the the provincials. Game 1, just wild. I don't think I don't think there's anything more you can say. Anytime there's a combined 43 runs.
Yeah.
A wild game. You guys are down, though, 10-1 heading into the bottom of the second. What's the message that you give to your kids right there?
Don't give up. They came back from runs before. They can do it again. It's baseball, man. You got to give that batter their chance. You're either going to walk them or you're going to pitch it down the middle and they have to hit.
Yeah.
So you got to give them their chance, and our boys took advantage. I told them make the strike zone twice as big as it normally is. Mm-hmm. So I want to see hitting. I don't want to see walking. We got more of a chance of getting a double, a triple than a single on a walk. So
you guys were down 10-1, and then you were down 18-9. You're down by 9 runs on 2 different occasions. Have you ever been part of a game like that, which somehow, some way, still goes into extra innings?
Coming back from runs that much, yeah, I've been part of that a couple of times. But extra innings, that was a first for me. And I'm pretty sure it's a first for a lot of these kids. But I had to motivate them with pizza and wings. It worked the first time throughout the year. We were down by 9 runs. I said, you guys come back from this, all the pizza and wings you want on me. And they fucking pulled it off. So it was, ended up costing me pizza and wings.
You lost to the eventual 4th place finishers, the Longueuil Pioneers. That was a wild 23-20 game, which puts you into the Saturday game against Laval. Now, Laval jumps out to a big start. There's a little bit of a lull kind of like in the middle of that game where it seems like you're playing there, but it almost felt like you guys were drained for like a little bit. They went up 8-3, but then the bottom half of that inning, that open inning, you guys make a rally. I think it was 8-4 going into open innings, and you guys held the fort in the top half of the open. Bottom half, you guys end up scoring a run and getting that rally going. And then with the score, I believe at 8-5 at this point, you have two runners aboard. You get a runner that goes from first to second. And I think we know pretty much what happened from this day forward. But what ends up going through your mind when you hear the first umpire call safe, and the second umpire gets asked?
I was just, they better not turn the call over. Mm-hmm. They better not turn the call over. And sure enough, they turned the call over. And then I just
it's an emotional game. It's an emotional game.
Well, not only that, the kids are on a rally here. They're starting to come back. You don't take that away from them for a reason like that.
And that's one of a couple of controversial calls, which actually ended up being what could have been considered game-breaking decisions. Certainly the U13s, which we'll get to in just a little bit. So you guys end up losing 8-5 in that game to Laval East. At the end of the game, you have to kind of talk to your kids about how the game went.
Yeah.
Like you rallied. Obviously, it's just a slew of a couple of bad starts towards the games.
Yeah, bad starts, and I call it catch-up ball.
Yeah.
Like, once you go down, you got to get at least 1-2 runs per inning to stay into the game and keep competing. But if you get shut out an inning or two and they keep getting more runs, then you're playing catch-up ball, and it's one of the hardest games to play.
And don't forget, you guys are exhausted after coming back from that much of a gap, especially like the first game where you came back from 9 runs twice.
Yeah.
You're exhausted. Like, people don't seem to realize that. Like, you've been trying so hard and trucking along so hard for so long to keep this game interesting and to keep it close and to close the gap, and then you eventually tie it. You guys must have just been like exhausted after that first game.
Oh, it's adrenaline. It's fun. Yeah, I love it. It's the emotions are up and down. Your adrenaline's going. Your every emotion in the book is going at that point. If you're passionate about a sport, I'm passionate about baseball, and yeah, I don't know. I love the feeling.
What was your message to them after the game on Saturday?
On Saturday's game,
I know that you kind of had to go talk to them from afar.
yeah.
But what was the message that you gave? Basically, like a year-end message.
We're still champs. We're champs in our division. I couldn't ask for a better season. Obviously, didn't like the way it ended, but shit happens, and we're part of history here. 3 teams to make it this far. It's great. So I can't really complain that much. But we left our chances on the field.
Yep.
We had our chances. We can't blame it all on one call. And just have to suck it up and take it as it is.
So looking forward to next year, I know we're a long ways away, but really 9 months, how far is that? Like 9 months from regular season starting, maybe give or take a few less from actually getting preseason or training camp going. What are you looking forward to for the 2022 season?
Now, a repeat. I'm looking for a repeat. We did it in Mosquito. We went back-to-back champions. And I'm looking for the same thing because I'm only losing 3 players, I believe, or 4 players due to age out. And we got a lot of great kids coming up and a lot of talent coming up too. So I'm looking for a repeat. If they keep us in B, if they put us to A, then I'm going to start a training camp early winter. Maybe try and practice them once, twice a week, depending on my son's hockey schedule.
They might be doing that because there might be enough kids to have 2 teams from Ganawagi next year. So that should be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's just one team, folks, that made it into the provincials this past weekend. Like, really what Jesse was saying was how historical this was. It really was. And the U15s, John Mayo's team, very first game that they played in the regionals, lost 11-1, and then just came back and didn't look back, really. Like, we were there at a couple of games. The first game which they played was against Repentigny, who actually ended up winning the finals. So they played the first place team. They played the 2 teams who played in the finals head-to-head, if you think about it. That's just how difficult the competition was. So they lose 11-1 to Repentigny, come back the next day, and pretty much look in command throughout the day in that game that got them to the quarters. They win like an epic 5-4 game against Varennes, I think it was, in the quarters. And then the semis, Greg, you were there against Dumontagne. What a seesaw battle that was.
Oh, yeah. It was back and forth. And again, it came down to the pitch count rule. And, and it's all about strategy. Okay, you only have batters, pitchers that can't pitch 3 days in a row, and you can't pitch more than 90 pitches in a day. So it's about trying to make sure that your best pitchers are available to get you to these games. And on Saturday, they ended up using Rohahio Stacy and Hororu Daibo to their max, and they weren't able to pitch on Sunday. But if they didn't do that, then they're not making it to Sunday, right? So it's a judgment call, and I think they did the right thing. And then it was just about trying to manage that. And luckily they got Wyatt Mayo back as a pitcher, and James Phillips, and they both played very well and gave them a chance to move on. Unfortunately, they lost a very close game in extra innings in the semifinals, and then they went on to the bronze medal game.
Yeah, and when you lose a game like that and you go eventually to bronze, like you've been there, Greg, or with the Mohawks, where you've lost a nail biter maybe in the semi, or a nail biter the day before, like a round robin format that puts you into the bronze medal game. It's not like you guys are not into the game, but it's sort of like, yeah, we want to do this, we want to win this, but ideally we would be in another game.
Oh yeah, for sure, and that there's an emotional high, and you're going through a lot, and you're putting a lot of effort in to get to that point, right? And if you fall short, it's a huge letdown, and there's only an hour between the semifinal and the bronze medal game too, so it was a very quick turnaround, and you can see it, right? Seeing these kids play. They gave their all, and they get to this point and they're just exhausted because now it's 6 games they've played in 3 days, and you don't ever do that, right? In the entire season.
And maybe that might be the one advantage of the team who they lost to in the bronze medal game was they lost 10-2. They lost 10-2 in the semis. They weren't in it. Like, I don't want to say you'd rather lose 10-2 than lose like an extra innings because you had a chance to win that first game, but that team kind of knew like early on, okay, well, we're playing for bronze.
Yeah.
So let's try to do our best in this game and bring it all out for bronze. Whereas we thought, well, we might be playing for gold. We might be going for all the marbles.
Well, yeah, and they were playing very well. They started chipping away and coming back, and they in extra innings they were down, and then Toby Goodleaf. He was on base, and he was actually able to. He got a hit, and then he ended up scoring a run and really putting them in. And the kids were on the bench in rally caps and everything. They were, they were really happy for Toby because he didn't get a lot of hits throughout the first couple of days. And then he got this really important hit, and it helped in getting to that point, right, where they were going to potentially be in the gold medal game, And then at the end of it, they're 2 runs down. There's bases are loaded. Jace Norton is on base and with a full count. And if Jace makes it to base, then you got the top of the order coming up, and they're gonna win. And
if you think about it, if Jace gets a base hit, hits the ball to the outfield, the game's tied at least at the bare minimum.
Or he gets walked, and they're down by 1, and Eduardo Dai will come
lead off hitter.
And it was just so close, and then to see it end like that, it was just it was like you could see the wind going out of the sails. And
you can also say that like they did that damage. They were down like by 3 or 4 runs. They loaded the bases with the part of their lineup which is not known for being the most dangerous.
Yeah.
So they all came to play.
Oh yeah,
they all came to play.
They were all they gave it their all. Every single kid on that in that lineup played their hearts out, and it was an amazing game to watch.
So that was the U15s losing a heartbreaker in the semifinals, 13-11 to Dumontangs, eventually having to settle for 4th place, which is 4th place in the province.
Yeah, and
4th place in the province.
And Dumontang ended up winning the provincials.
So you're going to lose to a team, you might as well lose to the champs, right?
Yeah.
And their only 2 losses before the bronze medal game were to the 2 teams who played head-to-head in the final. Greg touched on something, Jesse, that I wanted to get to you with quick, because you're the one that had to make these kind of adjustments throughout the tournament. Pitch count. What's the kind of strategy you went into, like with pitch count? You got a number of players that could pitch and could throw for you guys, but what was your strategy based? Because I know you ended up you used your starter for a good portion of the Friday game.
Yeah.
And then the Saturday game, it's like, well, you might be playing 2. Like, what kind of strategy?
It all depends on how that game starts and how it goes. If we get a good lead, then you got some leeway to use, some of your bullpen pitchers, I'll call them.
Yeah, okay. Guys coming up, guys who come in for relief for an inning or two, generally speaking.
Yeah, and then you try and save the top guys, your number 1, number 2 pitchers for the game's getting close, or if you think you're going to win this game and advance to the next game and use them on a tighter game. It's pitch count is it's a coaching game at that point, because now you can't just use your one guy for more than 50 pitches, or you have to sit a game, and you're playing sometimes 2 games in one day. So I had my son pitching, and I barely used him all year, and he was spot on. We ended up losing the game still, but I pitched in the whole game at a max of 100 pitches, and now he's burnt for the tournament. So, all right, now we're through game 1. Now I can use my number 1 and number 2 pitchers for game 2.
Yeah.
And, well, didn't work out the way I planned, but if I could do things different, I probably would have did it a little different.
And baseball is one of those games where it's situational, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And every situation calls for something different, right? So, and again, it's always one of those things that makes it more difficult, right?
Yeah.
We've seen situations where Jose Canseco went out to pitch.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, blew out his rotator cuff while pitching with the White Sox, but we've seen situations where guys that don't pitch come out and pitch because of the scoreline. If you were up 17-2, for example, in that game, the first game, I don't know if you would have used your son for the max.
No, I wouldn't have used him for the max at all. But he was pitching so good and giving our team a chance every inning. He had, I think, 4 shutout innings where they didn't really score any runs, and it gave us a chance to come back and chip away at the score, but we just fell short. But like I said, I would have did things a little different. I won't lie, I lost a day of sleep over it.
That's all right. The baseball season's, at least this portion of the baseball season is done for the U13s, U15s, U18s.
Yeah.
Didn't even touch on the U13s. This team was 3-4 in the middle of the year. They were 3-4. They were barely staying afloat in the Lac St. Louis standings. Finished a modest 4th place overall, 10-6-2. And then they go on this magical run that takes them to 6-0. They make it through they win the regionals. Then they move on to the provincial championships. Now, the first game that they played was against the champions from Gatineau, the Giants. And they go up 6-1. It ends up being like a 6-2 game. 2 runners on, 2 outs in the top half of the 5th inning. And this is one of those first times where I learned, like, okay, there's a lot of rules that are going on, specifically for the provincial championships. So they hit a ball that makes it to the outfield, and it looks like all 3 runners are going to score. 2 runs are in, but there's a close play at home plate. But this is where I learned that if it's a close play and you're a runner, you have to slide. Yeah, correct. That was the one that, like, really made me think, okay, well, we're really in for it now. Yeah. We're really in for, like, a very interesting call. So the Giants end up having that runner, which probably would have been safe anyway, called out. So now there's 2 down. They end up hitting a soft grounder to end the inning. But you think about it, if that grounder was hit with a runner on 3rd and 1 out, maybe it's 6-5. And then the Warhawks score 5. They come back and score 5, and pretty much the game's out of reach, winning it 11-6. Now, everyone was talking about the play, which we'll get to, in the next round against Drummondville. Warhawks jump out to a 4-1 lead after 1 inning. And the bats went silent for 4 innings. They didn't score a single run. It's 4-3 heading into the top of the 5th. Drummondville maxes out, and we don't score. So it's 8-4. Jackson Norton comes in, strikes about 1, 2, 3, and it's still 8-4 coming into the bottom of the 6th. The very first batter strikes out, and it's like, got 2 outs left in the season. But then Russian Dahoe Gabriel comes up and hits a shot deep into right. Now, we played in the first game, they played in a field that was 230 feet all around. We've seen Gabriel hit a home run out of a park that was 278 to right center. So we've literally seen the ball leave the yard. We've seen a ball leave the yard where he hit. Couldn't hit the ball out of the yard in the first game, But the second game, they move us to the field, which is 330, a full 100 feet deep, which is like, wow, okay. And he ends up hitting a shot which probably goes about, according to my eyes, 260, 270. He makes it to third, and then he's caught in a rundown. But like what Jordan Norton did in the regionals and what Kobe Lahache did for you guys in the regional game against St. Laurent, he kind of just hurdles over the catcher, trying to tag him, whereas Kobe was the second baseman. Scores a run. Very next pitch, Jaden Norton hits a double to left field. It's like, okay, the rally caps are on now. Day 5. We're going somewhere. Lily Barnes gets hit in the back of the head by a pitch. That's the rule. If you're hitting the helmet, you have to sit out. Even if you're okay, the last guy to get out, the last player that gets out has to run for you. So Jordan Norton, who has speed to burn, by the way, on the base paths, comes on. Each runner moves up 75 feet, stolen bases. So second and third now, 1 out. And then there's a bloop single. 1 run scores, 8-6. Runner on third, a walk. Back-to-back walks. So the bases are loaded. 2 down. There's a 3-1 count. And there's a soft roller to the third base side. The flip to second is an out. And they throw down to first. And despite some video replay showing that the runner beat it out, they call him out. And that's the way the season came to an end for the U13s. And we actually did try to show it to the officials, the organizers, but they made the call and said, once there's a call made, you can't reverse it, even if there's clear video evidence.
Funny, eh?
Jesse knows.
Yeah. Unless you're U-18, then they can reverse the call.
Yeah, I guess so. That must be it. So that is basically how the season ended for the U13s, U15s, and U18s. But let's not look at how the seasons ended, because all 3 of them pretty much ended on close, tough calls. 1 in extra innings, 1 with the bases, 2 of them with the bases loaded and the rally caps on. Yeah. You know, they say hindsight's 20/20. We can look back and say, like, well, that call should not have been made. But there were so many opportunities throughout the game, both sides, both U13s and U18s, where we might not have had to come down to a call, which ended up going against both teams.
Yeah. That's what you prepare your kids for all year.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note, too, that each of these teams is part of Kahnawake sports history.
Yes.
In making it to the provincials.
Yeah.
And going, and being, some of the top teams in the whole province, right? The U15s being the 4th team in the province. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, absolutely not.
In hockey, we've never had any teams go to provincials. We've had teams win regionals, but not even make it to the. There's no regionals for our provincials for B category, and this is something else. And to see that, it was really emotional to see these kids work all summer and get there, right.
But it's really cool to think about it, because all 3 teams that were in the regionals, well, there was one night when all 3 were playing at the same time. Greg, Brady, and myself are messaging amongst each other, trying to figure out who's going where. It's like, and then this past Friday, there's a game at 11, 1, 1:30. It's like, okay, Greg, where are you going? Brady, where are you going? Like, messaging amongst each other, just trying to figure out who's going where to cover which game.
That made it hard for us, too, because the U15s, that's my call-up team.
Yeah.
I couldn't call up because they had games scheduled around the same time. Or if I did call them up, they'd be able to come for an hour and then had to leave, and now I'm playing chance. I got 9 players. I got 1 kid that gets hurt. Well, we're forfeiting the game. So it was tough.
Yeah, definitely. But for us, the fans, like, it made things a little bit more interesting to be able to go see all of this and to be able to see and know where we started. Beginning of the year, Jesse and I were talking amongst each other about how things were looking, what the outlook was like. we never said that all three teams are going to win championships. We said, all three teams look strong.
Yeah, they all got a good chance.
They all got a good chance. And we didn't think all three of them would be winning regional championships within 24 hours. So being able to do that, and then, of course, that day in St. Lazare where all three teams are scheduled to play back-to-back-to-back, I can't imagine what the atmosphere would have felt like if all three won on the same day. We ended up having a parade last Wednesday, or 2 Wednesdays ago. But can you imagine if all three won on the same day?
That would have been great. The support from the fans from all the teams and all the teams staying by to watch the games, it just would have been a great. But shit happens, huh?
Yeah, well, it does. It does. And let's not let how the end result was deter the kind of season that all three teams had, because all three teams had incredible years. They're all success stories within their own rights. U15s and U18s getting that extra practice, playing against A-caliber teams, coming back to B, and overcoming some tough results with you guys, especially with the forfeit in the first game of the playoffs, to come back and to win when you were kind of put behind the 8 ball because you had to play that extra game in between. And then the U15s obviously being able to come back and flex some muscle and show that they were more than just like a 2-3 man team, because that was the perception, that was the stereotype. The quarterfinal round, their bottom 3 hitters went a combined 9 for 9. Semifinal round, they had players come out and help the team just overcome the competition. I think it was like 13-3, like they literally just overpower them. Kind of the same way you guys had played in the semis. And the finals, that's where that pitching came through.
Yeah. That's where you need them to pick up. So you stand. That's where they gotta show up, man. Pitching is the game. Make you or break you. And
that pretty much does it for this section of it. But guess what? There's still more baseball, because tonight, U9 House League, gold medal game. Red against blue. Girls teams starting their regionals. Fall ball getting started. And we forgot a couple of things. There's football season right now, and then there's hockey season, which eventually gets going.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys felt, but being able to see that arena open up, like the pictures of people inside the arena watching their kids practice.
Oh yeah, that was great, because we haven't seen that in 18 months, right?
Exactly.
All I could think about was a sports complex with Tim.
It was so nice Saturday, my son's first game with his new team, U18. Be able to go in the arena, watch the game again. It's medicine, man. It's medicine to watch your kids play.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And we hadn't had that for a while. And like the question I posed before was, do you appreciate what you have? Because before the pandemic started, maybe some of us would have taken that question for granted.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's what we've learned through the last 18 months is that all the things we missed, like really missed, were things that we took for granted that were always going to be there.
Yeah.
And now that they were taken from us, the ability to just go watch a minor hockey game or lacrosse or anything, and not being able to do that, and the arena being closed up until last week, from March 13th onwards, for it to be back is just phenomenal.
I don't know about you guys, but it was like the year where I got the most inboxes or tags or anything just asking about like updates. Like just what's going on over here? What's the score? Can you go live when you're in the final inning? Like so much. So, I mean, really, we can look back at this year and we'll look back at this pandemic overall in a few years and be like, we remember where we were that Sunday when all 3 Kahnawake teams were playing for the regional championships. That's something that you, John, Ronnie, and all the players should look back and smile upon, because you kept this community entertained for a darn good summer this year.
Yeah, it was great.
We tip your hat to you, Jesse Lahache, head coach U18s. Tip your hat to the kids for us, and we tip our hats to them as well, because we've had a great time throughout this summer. That's Jesse Lahache, head coach of the U18 Warhawks. Coming up in just a little bit, Greg and I will take 5 good minutes to remember Dean Hill. Welcome back to the cycle. Brandon Bordeau alongside Greg Horn. Today is Monday, September 13th. And Greg, this past week, we ended up having to endure a very difficult loss within not only just the Kahnawake Mohawks family, not only in the Iroquois Nationals family, but just the lacrosse family and really all across Turtle Island in general. Dean Hill, who played with the Kahnawake Mohawks in the 2013 President's Cup, was the offensive coordinator, but essentially basically in 2019. President's Cup champion, passed away at the age of 36. This is going to be a tough one.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a tough one, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, I first met Dean in 2007 at the World Indoor Lacrosse Championships in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He was a key part of the Iroquois Nationals offense back then. Mm-hmm. He was a phenomenal player and really, was like just one of those guys that you wanted on your team, and and he's just getting that message saying that he had passed away was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I heard it basically because I was talking to a buddy of mine, just big part of the lacrosse community. We're just kind of shooting the breeze, and he tells me, I've heard that Dean passed, and he didn't quite indicate who he heard it from, but when I found out, quite a reliable source. So I kind of just stayed away from social media. I was like, how some things, like, not saying that this would be blown out of proportion, but some things could be. Something could be blown. Maybe it's just a bad rumor. And then we got the message. The Six Nations Rivermen Instagram confirmed it right around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Unfortunately, passed away in the morning. And
I had heard it late morning, and I was just like, no, it can't be right. And then the first thing I seen was. Because Dean had played several years for the Victoria Shamrocks senior A team in British Columbia. They put out something, offering condolences to his family and friends, and it was, I'm having trouble talking about it right now.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely.
And that was something very, that for me, okay, it's real, and I ended up writing a short message, sharing the Victoria Shamrocks post on the Kahnawake Mohawks Facebook account and Twitter account, because he was a big part of the 2013 team, and he was. We won silver, losing the gold medal game at home to St. Catherine's Saints. Yeah. And then became really good friends and talked throughout the years, and always wanting to come back to Kahnawake for one reason or another, and as we're building up to the 2019 President's Cup, shot him a message, and he was coaching now, saying, "Hey, you wanna work with Bats and come run the offense for President's Cup?" And he's like, "Yep, I'm in. I'm down. I'll be there. I'll be there first thing." And he came down, and he was an integral part of the team for that week, and we left the door open that that he could be back in one shape or form with the coaching staff of the Mohawks in the future, and it's just heartbreaking.
What's really tough is, like, you see him. It's like losing a family member. It's like losing a family member who you've seen evolve from like a 22, 23-year-old kid to a vital member of 2 silver medal winning teams, the Iroquois Nationals, to a professional lacrosse player playing NLL, and then eventually transitioning to coaching. Like, not every single great player could do that. Like,
Yeah,
he's Wayne Gretzky.
And he was a very successful coach, winning Minto Cup, winning Founders Cup, and he was just a special lacrosse person.
Yeah, he really was. And honestly, just a special person. I remember getting the chance the first time I talked to Dean, he was still playing National Lacrosse League, and he never once gave you the impression that he was a professional lacrosse player unless you were talking about the game, unless you've seen him play the game, because he was just, his nature was quite humble, and he was very outgoing, very sociable, very much like, I might be a professional, but that doesn't make me like a better person than you or whatnot, because I'm going to talk to you like you're one of a good person that I just met.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that was just down to earth, and from Six Nations, and just a guy wanting to play lacrosse and happy to be one of the best in all Haudenosaunee communities.
Yeah, he really was, and he was that big left-handed shot on offense, which you can't really have enough of, especially when you're trying to win the President's Cup, like they've been, like the Mohawks were trying to do here in 2013 for that tournament. So our condolences going out to Dean, his family, his friends, his teammates, and everyone within the Six Nations community. Dean Hill, we will miss you. And thank you very much for joining us at home. I'm Brandon Bordeau for Greg Horn and Brady Cross, saying Ana Gi Wai.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Iorì and its employees.